David Bay here from MuscularDevelopment.com, back again with another episode of MD All Access. Our guest this week, Dallas McCarver. Dallas, how you doing, man? I haven't talked to you in a little bit.
Doing good, buddy. Doing good. It's always good to hear from you.
Good. So it's been a few months since the Olympia. I haven't had a chance to really talk to you then. We've had some training videos go up, seeing you in prep for the Arnold Classic. But let's talk a little bit about what you've been up to since September.
Yeah. Well, let's see. First thing I did when I got back is I wanted to capitalize on the round, of course. So I told myself, I was like, last year I only did 2 shows, but I was in prep for a long time because of the spacing between the shows wasn't really ideal. But anyways, that being said, I got back. I want to tell you about, in my mind, I wanted like 5 to 6 weeks to capitalize on a rebound, but then about 3 to 4 in, I just started feeling it, and I was like, it's time to just rest up. Lay off the food, lay off the training. I mean, you just start to hurt, the work, you start dreading the training. And so anyway, so I decided it was time to just, let myself heal up, rest up a bit. So I took like 5 weeks and did a big detox cleanse and, ate like a normal person. I didn't go to the gym for almost like 2 weeks straight, anything. And then even when I started going back, I was only training like, 3 days a week, every other day. I did cardio pretty consistently. That was only because, just something to keep me from getting fat, I guess, 30, 45 minutes a day. And then after that, like when that time was kind of coming to an end, it was time to kind of put together a prep plan. That was when I made the decision to reach out to Chad. And it started as like, like in my mind, I was like, I'm going to reach out to Chad and see, ask his opinion on this, that, and the other. And then it just started, well, why don't you just ask, if he would be interested in helping you? And then kind of went into that. And then, which thankfully and luckily he was, which I'm very thankful for, the opportunity, obviously. And then from there, it was, I told him everything pretty much I just told you. And he assessed everything the way I looked, and we got started. And we've been rolling for about, like 6 weeks now, 5, 6 weeks now. And things are really starting to click. Now it's like the weights are going up, training like just past, yesterday I spoke with him and via text, and we were talking about, potentially basically mimicking like Ronnie's split, the way he trained, which was like, basically you train everything every 3 days, then you have an off day on the 7th day. So it's, back, rear delts, biceps, traps, everything, on the backside and plus your biceps. And then you have a leg day, and then it's chest, front, medial delts, triceps, and then, start over again with back. And, lots of heavy compound movements, heavy weight stuff. And so anyway, so I just started that particular rotation or whatever today. And yeah, so that pretty much gets you caught up, I guess.
All right. Well, we're gonna touch base back on the working with Chad stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your sophomore Olympia experience. Obviously, last year, not your first year as an IFBB pro, but your first year competing. You won that show out in California, then got 12th at the Olympia. A lot of people thought you should have snuck into that top 10. You went back this year, winning the Chicago Pro, finished 8th at the Olympia behind basically, well, it kind of goes without saying, the top 7 guys in the world. We're talking guys like Phil, Ramy, Bonac, Dexter, Rulli, and Cedric. Talk to us a little bit about the difference between your first Olympia experience last year and then coming back this year.
I mean, honestly, besides the fact that every prep's different and, nothing ever runs as a dream, I guess. But, besides the little unknown things, really it was about the same. I mean, I feel like last year it was a little different in the sense of like the way I approached it, because last year it was like I could go up there and just bomb the shit out of it and nobody would even care. You know, like the first year I did it, it's like you could go just be like not even place and nobody's like, they were like, oh, well, you know.
First Olympia, yeah.
And then this year, you know, after I placed, even though not that highly, I did place. And then coming in, I think people started to see the pictures and started to be a lot more hype, you know, around me and kind of felt the pressure, you know, a little more. But, you know, at the end of the day, I realistically, you know, again, last year I pretty much, you know, I said I'll play somewhere between here and here, and that's where I was, and the same this year, you know. So I approach it realistically. You know, I'm comfortable enough to look at myself and look at these other guys and understand, like, there's gaps, and then also there's areas where I'm gaining. So, you know, it's but other than that, the mental aspect of it, I think it's all pretty much the same. I mean, it's hectic. You know, I don't know if I'm ever going to get better at, like, you know, juggling all the commitments you got to do. And then, you know, obviously the stress of the show. And, you know, one thing I really do appreciate about that all comes to my mind about both Olympias is the older guys and, like, the way they, you know, are helpful and the way they are, you know, hey, why don't you, like, you know, you thought to do this, or if you thought to, you know, look at this or whatever. And just from like a, you know, managing it all aspect and advice in general, I feel like I get the little brother treatment from a lot of the older guys. And, you know, I welcome it because it's great. I mean, it's, you know, who better to have to ask questions and, you know, than the best doing it in the world, you know, so it's a good thing too.
Yeah, now you were the youngest guy at the Olympia last year, obviously the youngest guy this year, and, you know, unless somebody really steps on the scene in a major way, probably for the next handful of years, you'll probably continue to be the youngest, if not one of the younger guys on stage. You know, what was that backstage experience like? I mean, you know, I mean, there's got to be some nerves there. But, you know, you're looking around at guys like Dexter Jackson, who's been, you know, basically competing as long as you've been alive, you know, and guys like that. I mean, you know, there's so much talk today about how the camaraderie that they had in the 70s and 80s is gone. And, you know, nobody really lives in centralized locations like they used to, like Venice or whatever. But from what you're saying, it sounds like the guys are still willing to help each other out and that they're pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for the 70s or 80s, but, you know, as for like now and the way the guys treat me, I mean, I don't think there's any less camaraderie. I don't see how there could be any less, you know. I mean, from Phil down, the guy, I mean, obviously, yes, you're competitors. Like, you're not there to kiss each other's ass and hold hands and, you know, be best friends. Like, you're there to beat each other. You know, that's why everybody goes, you know, everybody wants to win. But aside from that, like, it really is, like, I feel like these guys, number one, they're all very passionate about the sport, and they've made a living in this, you know, this industry, sport, whatever you want to call it, and they made a living in it. And I think, you know, they want to continue to see the industry thrive and, you know, bodybuilding not die. And, you know, I think so when they see maybe a younger guy like me or, you know, Josh or whoever, you know, Nathan, whatever, you know, coming up, I think to them that's good because it shows that, you know, so there's somebody to pass the torch to, you know. Obviously, they're not ready to pass that just yet, but when the time comes, I think it's not, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, but as far as the backstage experience, I'll tell you this real quick, is I was backstage the first year I did it, and I remember I'm standing there, and, like, this comes time, like, everybody starts pumping up, you know, and, like, one of the first people I saw, like, drop their clothes was Rolly. And, like, his back's to me, and I'm looking up, and there's just, like, meat hanging everywhere, and I'm like, fuck. Like, I am so, like, I seriously, I was like, oh, God, he's like, I'm going to have to stand next to this dude, like, shit. And, I mean, he just looked so freaky. And then the next person was Dexter, and, I mean, you remember what Dexter looked like in 15.
Yeah,
like, he was like carved granite. and I was just like, oh, I'll just wave the white flag. Like, I mean, obviously I'm gonna go out there and compete, do the best I can, but it was a very like that was the moment I realized, like, hey, there's still a significant gap between you and these guys, so you got to get the fucking work, you know.
All right. Well, you closed that gap quite a bit for 2016. We had talked before the show, and you definitely had goals of being in that first call out, which you didn't make. But if you look at the first call out this year, I believe they did 6 guys, and that's a really, really elite club. When your name wasn't in the first call out this year at the Olympia, was there some disappointment or some frustration, or did you kind of think, hey, I'm at the Olympia, so as long as I'm top 10 or whatever, I'll still be happy? What was the mindset when you weren't in that call out?
Yeah, there was there was definitely disappointment. But I mean, then again, like I said, I'm realistic too. So I'm gonna say, like, I kind of mentally prepared myself for the letdown, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I want nothing more than to be in that first call out and be up there with the best of the best, and get to compete against, because to me, it's like, it's like you prepare for a fight, but you don't really get to step in the ring. It's like, you worked really hard, but I didn't get that call out, like, where I was actually up there, like, swinging it out with those guys. Not that the other guys in the lesser call outs were any, less respectable to me. It's just like that's what everybody wants. So yes, there was disappointment, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I've just got to tell myself, like, hey, look, it's Olympia, man. Like, and the simple truth is, David, it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes, but sometimes you're just not good enough. Like, it's just plain and simple. Like, hey, you're not good enough. You're not, and you need to keep working and come back next year and try again. And so that's the mentality I left with. It's like, hey, I'm just not there yet. But I think this year I've closed the gap some, and I'll continue to do so. And hopefully until Lord will, and one day I am.
Yeah. And just on a side note, from the outside looking in, 8th place in the world is hardly something you look at and say, not good enough. But yeah, as a competitor, I completely understand. Let's talk a little bit about where you're at right now. I know you talked about Chad briefly. Anybody that's been following the sport for any period of time knows that when you had Ronnie competing for a number of years, not necessarily placing that well, he started working with Chad. I believe he won the Night of Champions in 1998 and went on to win the Mr. Olympia. And Ronnie, I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but the progress that he made from the mid 90s to that first Olympia win was phenomenal. And so people are familiar with Chad's capabilities. Now, was he somebody that you've talked to in the past, just kind of picked his brain about anything, or were your conversations with him that you had recently kind of the first time you touched base with him?
No, I mean, I knew, I've known Chad for, or known of Chad for a long time, but I've known Chad. I met him for the first time. I was at a store appearance in Springfield, where he is, and we talked for a while that day, and then I guest posted his show too last year, one of his shows there in the Midwest, and wherever it was in the Midwest, and we talked then as well, and yeah, I mean, absolutely, obviously somebody that's got that kind of credibility or track record, rather, they're gonna have a lot of credibility in what they've got to say, and who better to take these questions to sometimes. But as far as actually talking about coaching me, no, I mean, I never really brought it up until just recently.
All right. Now, a lot of guys, when they're working with coaches, sometimes they'll work with people that are doing their workout regimen. They'll work with people who are doing their diet. Sometimes they're the separate. Sometimes they're the same. Is Chad kind of guiding you through both your training and your contest diet and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, Chad's pretty much. I mean, he lets me more or less do my training because. But at the same time, I mean, I run it by him, and then as the diet and everything, obviously he does all that. And then, like I said, we discuss the training frequently, and things we can do to change it or better it. And like I said, we changed some things up today. So yeah, he's very hands-on in every aspect.
Or now, Ronnie, when you look back at Ronnie's training, he was training as heavy as any bodybuilder you've ever seen. Prior to working with Chad, you've been known to move some pretty significant weight as well. When you started working with Chad, does he kind of have you moving forward with that real heavy lifting, or have there been any major changes as far as your training in respect to the amount of weight that you're moving?
No, I mean, Chad, he seems to be just as much a fan of lifting the heavy weight as I am, so it works out good. A lot of times when I do something cool, if I have a video of it, I'll send it to him first before anybody sees it, just because I know he appreciates, to know that I'm working hard and whatnot. But he, like I said, right now, like I'm training, I'm not trying to make any comparisons, but I'm training, the way Ronnie trained, and probably, from everything I've seen, I mean, I use similar weights, and I try to maintain relatively strict form. And, I mean, in the last week, I've noticed a significant increase in strength due to, finally everything's really starting to get clicking with the, prep. But, in the last week, I've done, let's see, I did 675 on squats for 10 or some shit. I don't know what it was, 7.
A lot.
Or whatever it was. And I did 5 plates on the bench for 5. And I did, today I pulled, right before I came here to talk to you at the gym, I pulled 8 plates, so that's 765. I pulled 765 for 5. So, I think obviously heavy weight's a key component, and then I'm training everything twice a week too. So, intensity, heavy weight, volume. In this case, it's volume through frequency, not necessarily one training session, but those are all key factors in what we're trying to do here.
All right. Now, in the 90s and the 2000s, there really wasn't much question who the strongest bodybuilder in the world was. It was Ronnie. We get into the mid 2000s, a lot of back and forth between Johnny Jackson and Stan Efferding. Actually, Stan doing powerlifting and bodybuilding. Now, we're here in the 20 teens or whatever you want to call it, and it seems like yourself and Akeem Williams are the most regularly doing these freaky lifts. Obviously, placing well on a bodybuilding stage is number one for you, and being as competitive as you can be. But is there kind of a matter of pride as far as being known as the strongest bodybuilder out there?
Not really. I'd rather be known as the best. To be honest, I'd rather be known as the best. I lift this way because I think this is the way that's going to help bring me, muscle maturity, density, the thickness that I need, all of these things. I'm not just in and I don't mean this against anybody, but a lot of these guys, they get to where they are, and obviously they're the best in the world, so it becomes like refinement training, almost like very specific details of their physique, and very just not really trying to necessarily grow all over, very, very intricate, type training. And with me, it's I'm 6'1", I've still got a pretty large frame to fill out. So it's just, I think this is the best way to accomplish my particular weaknesses, to tackle those weaknesses. But as for being the strongest bodybuilder in the world, I don't really know, and I don't really care. But like I said, I'd much rather be known as the best.
Right.
It's the same with weight too. I post my weight and I put it out there because people like to make a big deal out of it and like to talk about it. And that's great. I'm glad that people get excited about that. And that's good. And it is cool to weigh, whatever sometimes, I guess. But at the same time, it's I can give a shit less if I weigh 290 or 260 on stage. If I was, 290 in fifth or 260 in first, then I'll tell you what I'll take,
Right. Yeah, well, at the end of the day, obviously we've said it a million times. There's no scale on the stage, so that doesn't matter. But the fans and the people out there training are definitely interested in the numbers game, and you have a lot of people out there who follow bodybuilding who aren't even necessarily competitive bodybuilders, and those to me seem to be the guys who are most interested in the guys like yourself pushing the big weight. So while it doesn't necessarily equate placings on stage, seeing the videos of you pulling 8 plates and benching 5 plates, it's still pretty cool for for the fans and the media to see. Especially a young guy really getting after it.
Don't get me wrong. When I was up and coming in this, I would see people doing crazy weights, and I was a fan of it, of course. And I'm still a fan. I do it because it's the way I like to train. It's fun to me. Like there's no better feeling than moving weight and heavy ass weight into the point where like you're just dizzy and seeing stars, and like you just like feel like your head's gonna explode and you're gonna puke your guts out. To me it's just like that's how hard you've got to push it, one way or another. Like if you truly want to, especially for me, I'm playing catch up here, and so these guys got years on me. I'm trying to make up years in a year, so it's definitely I think it's number one, the best way to accomplish my goal at hand, and number two, it's fun. I love it.
Who is if you had to pick, who's the strongest bodybuilder aside from yourself that you've seen out there? Would it be Akeem, or is there anybody else that jumps out to you?
Well, Stan, obviously, if you're talking about from a powerlifting standpoint, as far as I know, he's really the only IFBB pro with like significantly crazy, legit, lifts. But as far as like every day in the gym, whatever, Akeem is, he's as strong as anyone I've seen, including myself. He's a strong guy, like super strong. And when you see Akeem, like he just looks like he's built for power. Like he's just thick, he's I'm a fan of Akeem and his work ethic and all of that. So and honestly, I wish to a certain degree. Obviously, I want everybody to do it their own way, and whatever you think is works best for you. But I wish we saw more people promoting hard, heavy training. Still, I see a lot of these guys. It's like, don't get me wrong. There's a right and a wrong way to do everything, but a lot of these guys are so focused on, gripping the bar at this 2 inches into the ring, and having your elbow at 87 degrees and rotating here and pressing here and pivoting here. I'm like, fuck, how do you think about all that and lift? Like, how can you possibly be lifting hard if you're thinking about putting all the, like, what in the shit? But hey, I've seen there's some great physiques built like that. But for me, I think a lot more people would fall in love with the sport if they just, kind of did play the numbers game. Because what's more fun than last week you did, you squatted 6 plates, this week you squat 7, or last week you squatted this or pressed this, and this week you do it for 2 more reps, that's justifiable progress, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know, but that's just my take on it. Hey, what do I know? Some dumb kid, right?
Yeah. Eighth in the world, something like that.
I love it though. That's what these people say. Hey, he's just some kid. He'll learn one day when he's all crippled like Ronnie. I will tell everybody out there right now, I will gladly cripple myself for 8 sandals. So if there's any doubt in your mind that I will not take it to that extreme, you're wrong, buddy. It's like why else do it? Like, look at these NFL players. Everybody in the NFL, it's a physically demanding sport. Odds are, if you're a Hall of Fame football player, unless you were a kicker, you sacrificed the hell out of your body.
You're beat up. Yeah, you're beat up.
And that's what I wanted to do. I couldn't make it doing that, so now I'm here. So it's the only mentality I've got,
Yeah, tell us, just for the guys who aren't familiar, I don't want to get too sidetracked off bodybuilding, but there's definitely an interesting story. You played some Division One football, wasn't it?
No, I played like NAIA ball.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I was a decent ball player. I played, and you know, series of personal just circumstances and things led me to, you know, and also I think I realized like I played with two guys I can specifically think of that were drafted and played on Sundays, and you know, one of them still would be playing. I mean, big contract guys. You know, he had a Ricardo Lockett for the Seahawks had an unfortunate injury last year, ended his career. He's still a big part of the organization there and stuff, but you know, I saw what those guys
The skill
were,
level.
and I wasn't that, you know, and so for me, I lost a lot of motivation, and you know, coming into this, I mean, I was just doing this for fun at first, and then even when I turned pro, like I never thought it'd be a career, and then you know, once I started getting on stage as a pro, I started realizing like, maybe I can one day hang with these guys. Maybe I can one day be there. And for me, that's the biggest motivation. Is it's like I used to love when people would tell me I couldn't, and now it's like some people think I can. Or at the end of the day, like it's always just been fun. You know, one way or another, it's like bodybuilding fans are so fragile. One minute you're the best ever, the next you suck. You know,
Very, very fickle.
and for me, it's just like, so I find motivation in knowing that, like, you know, one day I could be there, you know, regardless of what everybody says. I believe that one day, I'm not going to say I'll win the Olympia, but I believe one day I could be up there with the best of them, you know. I could make that first call out, you know.
Well, we interviewed Jay Cutler just a few weeks ago, and I asked Jay, I said, if you had to guess who was going to be the next Mr. Olympia after Phil, or, you know, the next guy to win a few, your name was the first one that came to mind. So having four-time Mr. Olympia Jay Cutler, and obviously one of the best of all time, kind of throw your name in that subject. That's definitely a good sign as far as people's confidence in your future. Speaking of the future, Arnold Classic. The invite list came out just last week. Now, to clarify, this is an invite list, so that's not the official competitors list. But as far as I know, the majority of the guys are going to be there. There's talk about Compton and Roden maybe not being at the show. You're 100% all in for the Arnold, I'm assuming, correct?
Oh yeah. I mean, God forbid something drastically bad happened. Oh, that'd be the only way I'm out. I mean, I'm in. I've gotten way too excited now.
Yeah. Now, some of the guys have looked at the list and they say, okay, it's not as deep, and the numbers aren't quite as big as some of the Arnolds we've seen in the past, but still some really stiff competition. And as Sean Ray had said in his latest Unleashed, it's a cool opportunity, and it opens up the door for a new Arnold Classic champion. You know, it seems like, you look back at the Arnolds, it seems like the last decade it's been Kai or Dexter, you know, and Branch, and there really hasn't been a new fresh face walking away with an Arnold title. If I had to pick, you know, the top three going in right now, obviously yourself and Lionel and Cedric are the three favorites. Are you looking at anybody else in that lineup when you're focusing on your prep at all, or is it just kind of doing you for the next 10 weeks, 9 weeks?
Man, honestly, it didn't matter to me. Like when I saw the list, I was like, I read it and I was like, oh, well, I mean, it is what it is. You know, what are you going to do? Not do the show because there's somebody you think's going to beat you? I mean, what's the point of that? You know,
right?
I mean, it's Arnold. It's kind of like the Olympia, but obviously it's not the Olympia, but it's just, it's a big deal, and. So to compete in it's an honor and a blessing, regardless of the way I see it. And it and the Olympia, I think, are two shows that you can't go into unless you've won them before. You shouldn't go in just thinking, oh well, got this one in the bag. I mean, it's a big show.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and also, back to your point, the guys not maybe liking the lineup or whatever. I'll say this is it's like you said, for the last decade, there's been a few select names, and just kind of swapping around and, whatnot. But the truth is, man, is, a lot of those guys are coming to the end of their, the end of their road in their competing career. And, obviously Branch, Dennis is having an unfortunate, injury or, setback, whatever exactly is happening there. And I think what you're seeing is, like Sean said, a opportunity for the younger generation to kind of move in. And, I'll be honest, when I saw the lineup, I mean, I still see a lot of bodybuilders that are quality, good bodybuilders. I mean, do you have any of your top Olympian guys? Well, no, but that's because either one, everybody in the top five, I mean, realistically wants the whole year to get ready for the next Olympia.
Right.
I mean, they want to win the fucking Olympia. I mean, let's be real here. And then also, I think what people don't take into account is there's so many post-Olympia shows this year.
Right.
That a lot of these guys are already qualified. And once again, if you're talking about upper echelon guys, if you're already qualified for the Olympia, what's your goal? The Olympia, to keep, moving up in the Olympia,
Right.
I mean, I'll be honest, if I was in, the top five and, no, I still would have done the Arnold because I've never done the Arnold and I want to do it. But, I'd say most of these guys have probably already done it or, just, they really want to focus on the Olympia. And I respect that, it's everybody's decision. And I don't know, like I said, I saw the lineup and I was, well, it looks good. Let's go.
Right. Now, if we're looking at the guys who are going to be the favorites, and I shouldn't forget, you have Juan Morel, Luke Sandow. There's a handful of definitely really good guys that are going to be up there.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I thought there were some great bodybuilders on the list,
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Lionel seems to be kind of a giant question mark for every show he enters. Personally, I think the guy could be Mr. Olympia if he could come in razor sharp, but we know that's not always the case with Lionel. But yeah, you've stood next to Cedric before. You guys were 7th and 8th at the Olympia, and a lot of comparisons to you and Cedric in regards to both your height, your structures, your frames. How do you think you compare to Cedric McMillan?
Well, obviously, I got beat by him at the Olympia. At that particular time, like I said, I was not good enough to beat him. So, as far as how do I compare myself to Cedric now, I don't know. I mean, I don't have Cedric here to stand next to right now, but, I think, obviously, I know I'm improving going into the Arnold, and I know Cedric's working hard and improving too. So, we were close at the Olympia, and, hopefully I can make it closer at the Arnold, make it hard on the judges. So, and as for Lionel, I mean, he's as weird as it sounds, he's beautiful. Like, his physique's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's something to see. I mean, he's like a Phil. He's one of those rare, gifted physiques that's just very, very, very nicely put together. And if he nails it, all this talk about me and Cedric might not even matter anyways. So, I mean, who knows, man? And,
right.
And hell, like you said, let's not forget, you got Juan, Luke, these guys, they're bringing it too. Juan took a long off season. I know he's improved.
Right.
He beat me at the Olympia the first year I did it. So, I mean, who knows? It's that's the exciting part of it. And that's why I don't think you should get caught up in who you're competing against. Because you should just, regardless, I mean, if you're busting ass every day when you stand up there on that stage, whether you get first or last, you did everything you can or you could do. And then, that's when reality sets in. And sometimes everything you can do is just not good enough. You got to keep working. And so that's the mentality I approach it with, regardless of who's in the show.
All right, now this it's Monday here. Saturday was what? This last Saturday, Christmas Eve, was what, 9 weeks out for you, or was it 10 or
10?
10 weeks out. All right, so you got 10 weeks to go. You've definitely had some fun with your posing your last couple shows. Done some '80s music, which obviously I'm a big fan of. But going into the Arnold, first show you're doing, where as long as everything is the same. they're judging posing routines. Now, there's been back and forth as far as how much of that is actually being judged or how much of it matters, what it weighs into. But again, it's something that is being discussed and being talked about. And as of right now, as far as I know, the posing round is still on the scorecards. Now we know Cedric McMillan is one of the best posers in the IFBB. Very classical style of posing, a little bit different than what you're used to. Is that something that you're going to have to put more effort into getting ready for the Arnold, knowing that posing round is being scored?
Well, I mean, I think, posing is just like anything else, whether it be your training or whatever. There's always room for improvement, and you can always do it better. But yeah, I mean, me and Cedric had a very different style of posing, and honestly, last year, Cedric's routine lost to Kai's routine, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
So if you're talking, for me personally, if you're talking from an actual bodybuilding standpoint, I preferred Cedric's routine. Now, Kai's routine was very entertaining. It's don't get me wrong, I could never do that. There's very few people that can ever do that. And, Kai being the only one in the world that can move that way and look that way. So it's beyond impressive. I'm not taking anything away from it, but from a bodybuilding standpoint, I prefer the look of Cedric's routine. And that's where it's all individual, and I don't really understand how it's judged because, I don't pose like Cedric, and I don't pose like Kai, and I'm not going to. Jay didn't pose like Phil didn't pose like Ronnie, Ronnie didn't pose like, Dexter. I mean, everybody has their own way of doing this. Everybody has their own flow and their own transition, their own poses that they prefer to hit. And so I don't understand exactly how it's judged, but then again, I haven't asked and spoken to anybody about, like, what are the technicalities, and maybe I should, maybe I should be like, hey, what are you guys looking for? That way that, something I can look to provide for the judges. But, yeah, I definitely, to be honest with you, when I saw my routine from Olympia, I was like, I could have done a lot better than that. So, when I decided to do the Arnold, I did go ahead and already pick the music, and I've already been working, towards, what I'm, it's not done by any means, but I'm probably, a good minute 30 in, as far as a set routine that I like so far, and, just trying to kind of, add a little each day or every other day when I work on posing, just add a little, keep, running through it. But yeah, it's obviously something I want to do better at, just like every other aspect. But as far as the judging, I mean, I don't really understand it, so I don't know if I could be working my ass off and not be getting any closer to what they want. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could be doing all that. That's the thing I don't understand. I could be doing all this work on this posing routine and then get out there and do it and just be like, I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah, it is. And Bob and Peter and I and Sean have had these discussions endless number of times about what makes a good posing routine. Is it entertainment value? Is it hitting the poses properly with good transitions? I mean, if you follow guys on the forums, there's some guys who think classical style posing is boring and it sucks. And they think like, a branch style where you're walking around in Metallica and, hitting most musculars and getting real aggressive. There's guys who think that's great. And there's other guys who couldn't be more displeased with branches posing style. And like you said, everybody's got a different style. They pose to different music. So I don't know. And it would be interesting to have discussions with the judging panel on where's the line between posing from a technicality side and posing from an entertainment value side. I mean, obviously, from a technicality, transitions, hitting the poses, I think Cedric's one of the best in the world. The entertainment value of Kai's posing routine might be a little bit higher. But yeah, definitely something we should look into more. And obviously, as somebody competing, you might want to take a minute or two to check that out.
With you, I don't know if I guarantee if you go ask Cedric what he could have done to make his posing routine better last year, he'd probably throw his hands up because, most posing routines Cedric puts together are nasty good, but that was slick,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know what, how do you I guess
How do you top
the
it?
only way to really know would be speak to a judge, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe
Funny
that's what
enough,
we
I,
need to
I don't
do.
know if you were aware, but at the Olympia this year, Cedric had one of the best routines, as we had expected. And at the Champions seminar Sunday morning, he let us all know that that wasn't even his music. He just came out to the music, and he said as long as it was something he could pose to, he was just going to go with it. He said if it was something a little bit out of his wheelhouse as far as the type of music he poses to. But yeah, we were all like, oh, that was a great routine, and then you found out it wasn't even his music. So that's definitely a true sign of a good poser if they can just pick up with whatever.
Exactly. I mean, that's raw talent right there. I mean, I didn't know that. That's respectable. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's pretty crazy.
If I went out there and something else came on, I'd be like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, some people panic. I mean, I've emceed a number of shows, and every once in a while you get a screw up with music, and people just freeze. They don't know what to do. You know.
I feel like that would be me. People in the stands like, do something stupid, you know. And I'm just like,
just do something. So, all right. Well, first weekend in March, as always, we got the Arnold Classic coming up. Wish you the best of luck doing that. But there are a couple of shows right after the Arnold that, traditionally speaking, we see a lot of guys enter. Tony Doherty, excellent promoter, running his show for, God, I want to say the 16th or 17th year. Obviously now it's in Arnold, Australia. Mo Al Masawi, the New Zealand pro that was previously just a 212 show, he's added a men's open division. That's the week after the Arnold. Are you looking at the New Zealand pro or the Arnold Classic Australia at all directly following the Arnold in Ohio?
well, I'm definitely doing. I definitely plan on doing, provided they want me there, the Australian Arnold. I spoke to Tony about that last year, and told him I would definitely love to come over there and do that show. Honestly, until you texted me about an hour ago, I had no idea about the New Zealand show. So I'm looking into that. But if it's there, why not? If I'm already in shape, I got to fly around the world anyways. Might as well go a week early and do another show.
Yeah, no, and I can, not to get too much off topic, but I can speak from personal experience that Mo Al Masawi puts on a top notch event. They have basically they run kind of like a pro-am. They have the New Zealand Championships. It's held at a great venue, and Mo knows that his show's a little bit out there, and so he really goes the extra mile for the athletes and for the fans, and so I think it'll be cool seeing him having men's open for the first time, but definitely a first class event. So
yeah, I'll definitely reach out to him, and I'd love to. So I don't see any reason why I couldn't. Provided like I said, he wants me in the show and everything.
Yeah, it's definitely it's beautiful over there that time of year as well. I think they're just kind of like between fall and winter, so it's like mid 70s. It's definitely nice. Although you're in Florida, so it's nice by you all the time. Up in Wisconsin here, it's pretty miserable. So a getaway in March looks pretty nice. But
yeah, no, it's nice here until it's like 110. Then it's not nice anymore.
Yeah, no, not so much. But all right, man. Well, we're gonna wrap this up here pretty quick. Let you get going. We appreciate your time, but I got to get some off-topic questions. I don't know if you've seen the other all accesses that we do, but one of the things I like doing at the end of the interview, throwing some sideways questions that have absolutely nothing to do with bodybuilding. One of the local reporters that does some interviews with the Packers always has some fun with these guys, so I kind of stole the idea from him. So we're gonna hit you with a couple questions, totally non-bodybuilding related. Just completely off topic. We're going to get to know Dallas a little bit better. So, question number 1. What was the first live concert you ever went to?
Probably to see 3-6 in the Hypnotized Camp Posse crew in Memphis when I was like 15.
the 3-6 Mafia tour when you were 15 or what? Nice. Jose Raymond saw Madonna when he was 10 years old, and he was drinking at the concert, which was, if you know who Jose is.
Yeah.
pretty
Sounds right.
I think Jay Cutler said his first concert was Richard Marx, which as an 80s guy, I thought that was pretty awesome. But 3-6 Mafia is pretty good. So, all right. Question number.
Number Kid Rock. I went the same year, but I don't remember which one it was in.
Either or pretty badass concerts.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 2. Your first celebrity crush.
Probably Daisy Duke. Yeah.
Daisy, it's a pretty far throwback. That's when you know you're fulfilling your nickname, Big Country, when you say it was Daisy Duke. I think that's
Daisy Duke. I had a Farrah Fawcett belt buckle too.
Oh.
It was a hand-me-down from my dad.
Wait a minute. You had a Farrah Fawcett belt buckle?
Yeah.
What?
It was a hand-me-down from my pops.
What did it look like? Was it like a circle belt buckle with like a picture of her like engraved in it or something?
It was like a circular belt buckle with like a freaking picture of Farrah Fawcett on it.
Do you still have it?
Nah, I'm sure my dad's got it somewhere. Yeah.
You gotta do it. You have to dig that thing up. That would be, dig it up. Bring it to the Arnold Classic.
Daisy Duke, definitely. Because I used to watch all the reruns. When I'd stay with my grandparents when I was like real young. Say, old people always keep it on the old people channel. It's like the older shows. And Daisy Duke, she had it going on with those cutoffs, man.
Yeah, she did. All right, question number 3. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I want to be like Professor Xavier, be able to control people's minds, and I feel like you can pretty much get anything you want in life if you can control people's minds. So,
that's an interesting one. So far, we've had X-ray vision, and everybody's either said X-ray vision or being able to fly. But mind control,
they're really not thinking outside the box. Like, if you can control people's minds, you can pretty much get whatever you want in life. Hey, bank teller, enter the register, please.
That's it's an interesting one. Good. Wow, I'm surprised. I didn't see that one coming, and that's definitely a first. Okay. Question number 4. We got 2 more. Your favorite person to follow on social media?
The Real World Tactical guy.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think I've seen some of his stuff.
The guy that does like the deadlifts while pulling a truck and all that shit.
Yeah.
He does like kickboxing. He does like all these crazy heavy lifts, and he's like an excellent marksman. I'm pretty sure he's the most deadly man on the planet. Like he can kill you with his hands and like 18 other weapons. And that's before he even gets to guns.
That's definitely a good person to follow. Okay, last question. Your favorite athlete? Who you're the biggest fan of, non-bodybuilding?
Like favorite athlete of all times or current?
I don't know, both. How about that?
All time, Ray Lewis. My current favorite athlete, probably say JJ Watt. Yeah.
All right, Wisconsin boy. Everybody up here. Well, not originally, but he played at UW. So actually, you know what? He might be originally from somewhere here in Wisconsin. But
that's a big white goofy joker.
Yeah. He's Houston's struggling a little bit. He's been out for a while this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, he had back surgery though. So
yeah. Well, I was at the.
I'm telling you, anytime you're getting double and triple teamed every play, and you're still leading the league in sacks and tackles and all kinds of shit, like. You're a bad man,
Yeah, he's definitely on another level, even for as elite as the guys in the NFL are. So, all right, cool. Well, Dallas, again, we appreciate your time. Appreciate you sitting down talking to us, guys. We got training videos coming from Dallas. We got one that actually just went up today. This video will go up a little bit later in the week, but it's Monday. Chest video just dropped. We're going to have more videos coming from Dallas all the way now, straight up through the Arnold and beyond. And we'll probably get another interview or 2 with you between now and March. But for now, best of luck for myself, everybody at musculardevelopment.com, and appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you, buddy. It's a pleasure.
All right, guys, and that is going to do it for another week of MD All Access. Once again, I'd like to thank our guest, Dallas McCarver, wishing him the best of luck moving forward towards the 2017 Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic. We're out.